Yo, 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 yo.
What's that?
My finger cut off with the... Yo, 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 yo. Jeez. We back.
We back.
All right.
Another episode in season 2
Yeah.
of Success in Black and White.
The podcast.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, okay.
This ain't even my computer. I'm trying to...
We got a lot of issues. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Success in Black and White.
The podcast.
Yeah.
We are back in the house one more again. We are back one more again.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to you live from...
The house.
The house.
Where else, really? Although we need to do a cruise ship again, we decided.
Yeah.
But later.
Later.
Right now, today, we are rocking our brand new t-shirt designs, one of our designs.
Yeah. You can't, my cup in the way.
Well, mine is very visible.
Hashtag INT, and that doesn't sound. That does not stand for interception.
No.
That does not stand for interception.
It does not stand for interception.
What does it stand for? Hashtag INT.
Hashtag INT. So one time, I think back in March of this year, we went to a panel discussion on interracial relationships, and we met this amazing woman that was so amazing that I don't even remember her name. Do you remember her name?
No, I thought you did.
No, I don't remember her name. Although I work with her mom,
I was about to
actually.
say, we can get it.
Yeah,
real
we
quick.
can get it. I work in the same building as her mom. So anyway, we met her and she was amazing, and we had this really, as long of a conversation as we could have after the panel. And she was in an interracial relationship. She is, sorry. She's Black, her husband is white. But she was so funny. She was telling us about how her and her husband talked about identifying other interracial couples that they see that are out and about. And they always, they'll nudge each other and be like, INT. And so since that time, now when we're out, if we're at church or we're at the grocery store, wherever, we're always like INT. Because sometimes it's a rare sighting.
Yeah. Like Bigfoot.
Yeah, maybe not as rare as Bigfoot, but it
Abominable snowman.
Is that less rare than seeing Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Or the Loch Ness.
Which I thought was just in Scotland.
That's right. It's rare for us to see. We ain't never in Scotland.
Right. So we see these couples and families more often than, the Loch Ness Monster, but much less often than we see,
Bigfoot.
Yeah. Bigfoot. So anyway, we'll nudge it. We'll be like, INT. So now we always say it. So we thought it would be funny, especially for our community, to have the hashtag INT t-shirts. If you are interested, we have some for sale, a limited amount, but we will sell them. How much are we selling these for?
15.
Perfect.
99. Plus tax, shipping, and handling. You do the math.
Okay, less than 20. We'll say that.
Yeah.
We're going to sell them for less than 20, right? So anyway.
For the community, though, because this one right here, I feel like the people that would wear this, I'm cool with them getting it for $15.99 plus tax plus shipping and handling.
That's true.
All my other shirts, $20.
We usually charge $20. So anyway, if you want one of these shirts, the hashtag INT.
And it's the same quality. The quality is the same.
Yeah.
So
it's very soft,
it's that good
cotton.
stuff.
So those of you who already have, you either won one of our t-shirts or you bought one.
Yeah, it's the same quality. We're not going backwards from this quality.
No, because who wants to wear a stiff cardboard t-shirt all day? Those are terrible.
Not me.
No, I don't either. They're terrible. So anyway, So we're both rocking this look because it's just funny. It's one of our sayings now, and we appreciate it.
That's right.
So, So we're also rocking this look because today we are jumping back into a conversation that we started having regarding diversity and really getting to the meaty, hearty parts of diversity way back in January when we did our 4-part episode on interracial relationships, and we interviewed a bunch of couples and that kind of thing. And so this week we're talking about code switching. And when I say we are talking about that, it's difficult. I can give you a definition and a history of the term. In some ways it's been used, but I cannot bring really experience to it because I'm white. So my husband is going to help provide context and experiences and stories in which he has had to use code switching and just all of the things that come with that in this series.
Yes.
Yes.
All of the above.
All of the above.
A, B, C, and D.
Yeah. True story. So, you want to jump in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's jump into code switching. So, as the typical, you guys know you've been watching us forever, well, not forever, but the past year since we've been doing this. You know that I come bearing data, kind of.
Yeah.
I'd say more
Data.
I'd say more research. So,
yeah. What do you have?
What I have is the official definition of code switching. So if you're like...
Oh, the official.
Uh-huh.
All right.
According to Britannica Dictionary.
That's in the dictionary?
Yes.
Oh, snap.
At least in Britannica's. I don't know about Webster, but...
Oh, no. Webster, Nah. Webster's still on the short list.
Do you know where I always forget to check?
Where?
The Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, you should do that.
I probably should have checked that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure they have a good definition in there.
Of code switching?
Yeah. If anybody's going to be able to give it to you, it's the people from the urban community.
That's true.
Urban Dictionary. All right, come on.
So anyway.
While you're in there, you need to look up in your DMs.
No, I didn't do that yet.
Come on.
So the official definition of code switching is the process of shifting from one linguistic code, so a language or a dialect, to another, depending on the social context and or conversational setting. Right. Makes sense. This is something, and so you guys heard there's no context of race or ethnicity in the official definition.
Correct.
And that's because it's just not included in the definition because honestly, there are a lot of different ways in which different people code switch. But the reason that this is so contextually important when we talk about race and racial issues, especially in America today, is the fact that in history, code switching has been used primarily by African Americans, but also by other minority and or marginalized groups in order to make themselves, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
I don't know either. In order to make themselves come across
recognizable.
As maybe recognizable, like come across as I belong in this space.
Okay.
In this group that I'm in.
Okay.
And I just, have a dictionary definition in front of me and I can't think of the word.
Mm-hmm. Acceptable?
Acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. It's like your Britannica.
Mm-mm. I'm the Urban Dictionary.
You sometimes code switch. The other idea of where we got this topic from, there's actually a really good podcast. We'll link to it in the show notes below, but it's actually called the Codeswitch podcast. And they tackle every episode is related to race and diversity. And they tackle a lot of really important topics. Like one of the ones I listened to was all about this year's U.S. Census Bureau. Yeah. And how they were trying to eliminate certain, they were trying to add in, trying to force people basically to say if they were a legal resident of the United States or if they were an alien of the United States. And this, of course, just erupted in, huge controversy across political lines. And so that was one I listened to primarily because I'm interested in survey building because I'm a nerd. But it was just really interesting. So anyway, the podcast itself tackles a lot of really difficult topics, and I highly recommend it, especially if you are kind of in the space of like, I'm white and I'm privileged and I don't understand a lot of these topics. It's a really good show to jump into, to start exploring yourself, like why talking about racial topics and diversity is so important.
Yeah, I agree.
So
you can jump in at any time. That's what I like about it, because it's not like building. They give context to everything. So I feel like it's good, and I like it for that reason.
It's really, really good. So let's then talk about the history of code switching, because I think that's important. Like I said, the definition doesn't have racial undertones in it, because technically any person at any time may be code switching. I know, for instance, I code switch based on certain situations I may be in, or if I'm around certain people. I will talk one way in front of my family and in a safe space, and then when I go to work, I talk a completely different way.
You do?
Yeah, usually.
Oh.
Okay, I'm learning to talk a completely different way.
Okay, all right.
This might have been facilitated by the fact that now I am in a more politically recognized office. And I have to be more careful with my words than I used. I really did. So when we worked together, I would just kind of say what I thought, and I was safe primarily because I'm a white female and I'm the most protected of anybody in America. And so I could say what I wanted to in a work setting and not really have any repercussions. And so I took advantage of that. I still am able to do that a little bit, but I have to really tone back a lot of what I would, like if I'm in a situation where I would have said something like in a staff meeting or something, now I really think about it and think through it, because I don't have the ability to do that anymore and to really speak my mind because of the not because of my race, but because of the political nature of my office.
Okay, I can see that. That makes sense. Yeah, I can see that.
So in that way, I do have to code switch. But this is a very different thing than if you're code switching because of the color of your skin. Right?
Right.
So let's give a little bit of history. So code switching is usually directed, as we talk about it in the context of America today, it's related to race and or minorities. And this has really been a recognized definition since the 1970s, when people were trying to push standardized English onto African Americans in this very like Eurocentric atmosphere of, we don't think as the white race, we don't think that African Americans speak the way that we want them to. Whether it was, right or wrong, according to whose standards, nobody knows, except, Eurocentric, European, white English standards. So anyway, that's kind of where it was recognized, was like, you must code switch in order to be well educated or be well respected in certain spaces and places. And so this is especially true when we saw that, not segregation, but the, I don't have any words today, that's so sad. The desegregation. What is the word I'm trying to
I don't know.
say? I don't know.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't know what you're trying to say right now.
So when we
Civil rights movement?
Yes, with the civil rights movement.
Oh, okay. You like desegregation, and I'm just like, when did that happen? Like, what is that?
Yeah. So I'm thinking about when
you're talking about the civil rights movement, like when that happened, when that started.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Come on.
Like,
I'm with you.
The civil rights movement, when
I need to get you up on your African American lit.
I know, clearly.
I got a book.
Thank you.
Right back there behind us right now.
Perfect. So when Black children were starting to be integrated into white schools, and the separation of those two, so the segregation was coming to an end, which of course I can't in my brain think of the word for this. But anyway, there was a very teachers of children were saying, you are not speaking English in the way that I want you to speak it because it is not proper grammar, quote unquote. It is not the Eurocentric, standard English. And so what they were speaking actually has a term, and it's called African American English. And so there were two different approaches to this. There was the correctivist approach, in which teachers would actually correct children and say, you are not speaking the way that I think you should be speaking. It's not proper grammar, proper English, in this Eurocentric view of appropriate speech. And then there was the contrastivist, which really emphasizes language plurality, right? And so what people who were contrastivists said was that the home dialect was equally as important as standard American English. And so if you look at two sentence structures, like a standard English speaking or the standard English dialect would say, my brother is smart, would be the sentence. And then an African American English speaking person would say, my brother, he's smart. Because that phrase has a West African sentence structure that's known as topic comment. So the topic is my brother and the smart is the comment. It lacks the verb. But what I didn't know until I researched this is that English is the only language that requires the verb in the sentence in order. So we're basically telling people if you don't put a verb in your sentence, it's not proper grammar structure. But otherwise, English is the only language that expects that people are putting a verb in their sentence. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that's the history behind code switching. Yeah.
That's deep.
Is it?
Very.
How so? Have you experienced this?
Yeah. I'm trying to stay on track with what we got. I got your notes right here. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to keep my mental capacity.
Because it was too much of me not knowing terms that I should know.
Yeah. I'm trying to stay with you and keep my mental capacity
with your stories.
With my stories on lock with the way that we have it written up in the notes.
I got you.
So I can stay on track because with this topic, I mean, I feel like it can go in a lot of different ways. Yeah. And also, you're asking for some pretty intimate stories and stuff in here.
Yes, I am.
Based on my experiences.
Yes, I am.
So I'm just trying to.
And you have to be prepared.
Keep it locked in. So I was trying to be lighthearted at the beginning, staying with where we were going with this, just so that I could not lose people or they think that I'm getting too deep or I want you to feel sorry for me or anything like that. So I've just been trying to stay locked in, but you've been challenging that.
Sorry.
No, you good. It's all good.
I mean, I think that's part of the issue too. And I was listening to I was listening to the Codeswitch podcast yesterday, and their very first episode, they talk about whiteness.
Yeah.
What is whiteness? Because the problem is, unless people understand what whiteness is as a race and the history of whiteness in America, then we can't have I'm speaking specifically to white people, we can't have an appreciation for what any other race goes through in America, because we tend to think that race is somebody else's problem. We're not a race because we're white, but that's not true. And so anyway, I was listening to the whiteness episode on Codeswitch yesterday, and there were two teachers who taught the same class at the same institution. One was an anthropology professor who taught the history of whiteness, and one was a sociology professor who taught the history of whiteness. The anthropology teacher was a Black female, and the sociology teacher was a white female. And so the students viewed the white female as this benevolent role model, because she was teaching on whiteness and the history of whiteness and how people have used their whiteness as to basically keep other races down and to put people in minority groups. But because she's white, people looked at her as this role model. But then the anthropology professor is teaching the exact same materials, exact same coursework with just a slightly different perspective from a, geological and historical perspective, but the same thing. And people saw her as an angry Black woman. But it was the same context, the same objectives, like everything was the same. So I thought that was interesting.
Happens every day.
Happens every day, right? Yeah. Yes. I smile when I talk, so this is not me being happy about that. This is just me talking. But I would love, if you're in a space where you feel like you can share some of these stories, I want to know first of all, are we there? Are we in that space? Because I know this is a very heavy topic.
I'm good.
And it's not, it doesn't have to be heavy to me because I'm white and I'm of a race of privilege and I don't have to think about these things.
Right. We get that.
Right. Sorry. Did I reiterate that too much?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Come on.
So I want to know, what does the term code switching mean to you?
I think the definition that you gave is almost pretty accurate, except that I would like, for me, I would like to add on behavior to that. Because I think you said it was based around language, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
I would like to add on behavior to that.
Like behavior and actions?
And actions, yeah. I think that is also one of the most unrecognizable ways that people code switch. And that could be from the way that you walk, the way that you approach, the way that your body language is, the way that your body language is perceived. If you move something too aggressively, if a door is closed too, like, I feel like it's more than just talk. It's like actions behind it. That is also should be a part of that definition. And for me, it is, because I'm aware of not only the way that I talk and the way that I'm presenting myself, but my actions and behavior as well.
I think that's a really good point, because that's something we talk about often, is you having to temper your actions, not because your emotions are that you are upset or flustered or excited or angry. It's just that they might be perceived that way. And so you have to temper your actions or behaviors. And a lot of times your words. So we talk about that often.
Mm-hmm. So I think the definition that you gave was good. And I would just add to that the actions and behaviors as well.
Okay. So let me ask you.
Mm-hmm.
When did you first learn or figure out that you needed to code switch?
I think that I learned where I can remember back to. I think I learned when my family made a big move. When we moved from Georgia to Florida, and the part of Florida that we moved to is where I immediately recognized and realized that I had to carry myself differently because of how I was perceived based on my race. Also, I think that one of the things that plays into that is we left a place where I had a lot of comfort because of my family was there, or a large portion of my family, not immediate family, was there. So that I always had support, and I always had someone that I felt like was there to hold me up. When I moved to Florida, away from that, it was just my immediate family. But not only that, the dynamic of the city that we moved to kind of brought that to my attention at an early young age. So that's when that's when I can remember back to where I had to kind of like acknowledge it and say, wow, this is really a thing. And to where I can start to remember that, depending on who I was around or the way that people were perceiving me based on their feedback, I had to start to, I guess, code switch.
Did anybody have to tell you or coach you through that? Or did you have to figure that out on your own?
I figured it out, a lot of it out on my own. I think that a lot of times the consequences to some of my actions was where I learned. So some of the things that I was doing, that people were saying, were responses to things that I was doing, and I would get in trouble about those things. So that was my learning to it. So for instance, saying something out of place, or not my turn to speak, or doing certain things, I would get in trouble at home about it. And I really wouldn't understand, because I would see other people doing it just differently. But for me, it was deemed as inappropriate. And then, you go home with something that was deemed as inappropriate and you get in trouble. And I was like, okay, well, I can't do that anymore, or I have to do it differently because of what I was doing was perceived differently, even though I saw other people doing the same or very similar things. So that's kind of how I learned. No one ever really coached me through it that much.
It was just, you got in trouble?
I got in trouble and I learned, or I was accepted, or opportunities were presented to me. And that's kind of how I learned. So, for instance, in school, because I did or said something what was deemed the right way, it's like an opportunity was presented. You get to go to this, or you get to do this, or be a part of this. But if you didn't, then you were set aside. You're not included. You were not able to be involved. And that's kind of where I learned, okay, so to be a part of this, or to be able to be involved in this, I have to behave this way, or talk this way, or engage this way. And those are things that I just learned, and you just kind of pick up. And when you're doing that, you're realizing what it's about. And I think that not until I was in probably junior high is where I realized, like, a lot of these things have to do with a certain group of people, and we all look the same in this group. And that's when it started to churn. I was like, okay, so I get it. I'm a part of this group, and the people in this group just happen to either be black or brown people. And even though these people over here are doing the exact same thing, we can't do it and get away with it. I got examples. I mean, I don't know if you're going to ask that later, but I got like examples from like middle and junior high.
Yeah, talk to us about
happen.
It. Yeah.
So, for instance, a group of white kids in our school used to wear safety pins on like their clothing, which represented something to them. And nothing was never said. And I don't know what it was about, because we didn't wear, the black kids didn't wear the safety pins.
Yeah, that's weird.
And I don't know what it represented, and I really don't care. I'm pretty sure it had some racial behind it or something. Okay. And I really don't know. But I know for sure that, and I don't know if this started with the athletes or not, but I know that the black students were the ones that kind of did it. So during lunch, we were able to participate in like basketball or open gym or open rec if you ate your lunch and did what you're supposed to. And you would get sweaty and different things like that. So I noticed that black students started bringing hand towels with them. And when we were done with it, we would just tuck it in our pocket or put it in our pants or something like that.
Right.
And it got to a point to where, because it was a lot of us doing it, they created an entire policy at school and told us, the black kids, that you can't put the towels in your pockets. You can't wear them in your pants. You can't have exposed towels, because we were somehow representing an affiliation to something. I don't know to them if it was like gang related or whatever. I was like I had no idea. I'm like, well, I'm not in a gang.
I just get sweaty when I play basketball.
And so when you talk about standards and how things, are, but also at the same school, I remember when we had all out black versus white fights and wars and stuff.
Really?
Yeah. So, and that was something that where I came from in Georgia, like, because I was with family, and probably because most of the students at the school were black like us.
I was going to ask.
I didn't see much of that. But when I moved to Florida, and the specific town that I was in Florida, it was like very, like a lot of tension, a lot of separation, and It was blatant. And the way that rules and people were held accountable were very different. And it was very evident that race had something to do with it.
Wow.
So that's how I experienced it. And that's kind of how I learned. And I was just like, wow, man, this is crazy.
That is crazy. And
Yeah.
I don't, it's really even hard for me to picture. I mean, first of all, I grew up in a town of 2,000 people total. So not only were there not that many kids in my school, but there was zero diversity. There was really no diversity, minus a couple marginalized populations, but there was definitely no African American students at all and there was no African Americans in our town. So it's hard for me to picture this, especially growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of worries me for our kids, but
yeah,
that's a different story, I guess.
So that's how it was. And I learned a lot through experiences. I can't even remember my parents even ever sitting me down and talking to me about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know Jamal's dad used to talk to me about it some, but he used to talk to both of us about it.
Right.
In his own way. I'm not going to repeat some of the stuff that he said, but definitely he gave us recommendations and insights on how to carry ourselves when we're around certain people or in certain situations.
Yeah.
But other than that, like most of it is just through life experiences. Like you try something that you see somebody else doing and it's unacceptable for you to do it, so you don't do it anymore, or you find a different way or do it around a different group of people. Like it was just plain and simple as that.
Mm.
You know what I mean? For instance, movie theater.
Mm.
You see a bunch of white people group together, navigate through and do their thing. So you get with your homies and y'all group together and start to do your things. And immediately somebody comes over and say, hey, what are y'all up to? This isn't a place for you to hang out at. So you need to go and find something to do. In that setting, in that space, we can't get together as a group of black people and do it, even though we just saw the white people go do it.
Wow.
Like that's how we learn. That's how I learn things. Yes, that has happened.
That's crazy.
But, nobody ever taught me to get back to the question that you asked, how did I learn? Nobody ever taught me. It was just through experiences. And like I said, I know Jamal's dad definitely told us to always be careful, to always be aware of our surroundings, to always be aware of who we're around and how we're carrying ourselves. Mm-hmm. But like as far as code switching or when you're around people, you have to do this or behave this way. I just learned that like in the fire.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think those stories are powerful because they're not something that I've experienced, but even thought about looking out for.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when we say like talking about diversity or how does diversity affect your success, I think that things like this are really important to understand if you are not from a marginalized population, because it will affect your success. So anyway, let's move forward. I want to jump into the next one.
What's the next one?
So the next one is...
Let me see where we are. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so on a daily basis, if you're willing to share...
Keep going. I'm just looking, trying to find it so I can see where I got to go with this.
Oh, okay. The notes. Okay.
Yeah.
So on a daily basis, if you're willing to share, what are some ways that you can think of now, especially like going to work or like being with our kids or like just any ways that you operate on a daily basis? How do you tend to code switch?
I don't know if people from work listen to us or not. I really don't care. It would be nice. Hopefully they can learn something about me and about us. So I'll give a disclaimer in case anybody decides they want to listen in from work or somebody that gives you the updates on what we're doing.
Usually that happens more, I think.
More than anything, nobody from work listens to us, but they have friends of a friend who listen to us and be like, oh my gosh, Daryl and April are doing this. Did you hear what they said? They did this. They're like, oh no, I didn't know. But then they come back and talk to you like they know what's going on in the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, anyways, for anybody that's going to do that or anybody that happens to work with us, disclaimer, if you are easily offended or your feelings get hurt, close your ears to this. Or if you're listening and you go back and give them the scoop, go tell them. I don't care.
Just play the right game of telephone, not the distorted game of telephone.
No, it's all good. So code switch at work for me currently right now happens every day, all the time.
Okay.
Every day, all the time. It's almost like I just turn my black self off like in the car and just be like, I'll be back to pick you up later when I get out of work. You know what I mean? Nah, it's all good.
It's funny. It's not funny.
No, it's not.
But it's funny. Just because I know you.
Nah. So at work, I have to, in my current position, I have to be aware.
Okay.
I think that I definitely have to be aware. I think that there is, and a lot of people try to be understanding. Mm-hmm. And when I say a lot of people, so let me back up. In my current position, and let me back way up. So in a lot of the jobs that I've had, I've been the only black person, let's say administratively, because I've worked in a lot of jobs where the support staff, like a lot of them were black. And in an administrative role, I have worked probably in almost 90% of my jobs, I've been the only black person. And I don't know if it's because of the field or is it because like I strive to be progressive in my work life and be in positions of leadership and where I'm able to, I guess, provide feedback. Sometimes I feel like it's not listened to, but whatever. Like I feel like I want to be in a position to do that. And so I've worked for that. But in a lot of my jobs, I've been the only black person. And for me, it's tough and it's been challenging. And I've learned throughout those experiences of how I have to navigate and moderate conversations and be aware and watch this one, because I get reminded constantly, but it's in a microaggressive way.
Yes. I was going to say microaggressions.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And microaggressions are something I never experienced until you and I were together.
Crazy.
But once I started experiencing them, it's easy to see why people don't think that that microaggressions could be offensive, or because they're so small and minute, but they always go back to your race.
Yeah. So, for instance, now I'm not dodging the question. I'm just I'm just thinking through.
Just answer how you feel, how you need to.
Yeah, I'm just thinking through. But I'm at home though, so I shouldn't have to code switch on our podcast. But it still matters though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like what I put on social media matters.
Yeah.
And as we found out, matters to some people more than others. So, if y'all can't tell, I'm just antsy. But at work, I'm aware of my demeanor. Like if I'm not having a good day, I have to be aware of what my face is saying, my body language. I have to be aware of how and when I interject. I have to be aware of what I say. And now I'm trying to say more and do more, but because of how people have labeled me already, I get cut off a lot now. But I have to remember that when I get cut off, by me re-interjecting myself, I can't do it in a loud tone. This
is something that I don't know if I could do it. I mean, honestly, and I feel like that's a terrible thing to say, but I haven't been conditioned to do it because it's not something I've ever had to think about.
Yeah.
In my professional life. And even now in the ways that I have to think about toning down some of the ways that I say things in my office, it's still not the same, because I can't imagine having to run this dialogue through your head the entire time you're at work, just constantly thinking about how are people going to perceive me, how if I say this thing or in this tone, or if I even like my face is a little bit off, then people could perceive me as the angry black man.
Or if you don't say something, if you're not
right,
like it's just from both sides.
Like it has to be exhausting.
It is
to
it
constantly
is. Very
be
exhausting
thinking about this. Where I guarantee you, and I only say this because I have sat in meetings that are, can we just say PW? That's predominantly white.
That's the thing. Don't forget where you're going, but like, imagine being in that setting and being the only black, not person, like black male, but black person in those settings. Like,
now it's something I think about when I'm in those settings, especially when they're
you look around and find the black person.
Admin.
They got to have one in there. They got to have the token in there so that they can say that everybody's voice was in the room, even though voices in the room can get silenced.
Yes, and I see that happen.
I'm jumping ahead. I hope not.
No, you're fine.
Oh.
It's something I see often in a couple of the meetings I go to that are PW, and there are just a handful. If I would say it's pretty reflective of where we work as a whole, the percentages of race in that room. Yeah, that makes sense. So a very small percentage are others, right? And it makes me think when those people speak or talk, I think of two things. I think of how are they being received by the other people in this room? And this is something I recently started thinking about is how can I show an allyship for these people? Is there something they say that I can agree with maybe, or maybe I'm just being silent and listening? Like, it makes me think of how can I be better at allowing these people to have a voice in this room that is PW. And so you were shaking your head, and that's something I don't know, So as the
fact that you have to ask yourself that question and figure out how you can help these people in itself is a part of the problem. The fact that you feel like you have to help these people, like, like that's a part of the problem in itself. And here's the thing that gets me frustrated is by, I don't know if it would be like reversal code switch, but by trying to then be a part of who they are or like change who you are to try to make them feel involved. So a prime example is, which I deal with this at work too. Like when people talk to me, they try to like talk to me differently, I guess, how black people talk. And I don't know, the like TV and radio and all this, they listen to rap now, so they know some of the lingo, and when they talk to you they want to use some of the lingo and they use it out of context, and I'm looking at them like, do you know how crazy you sound right now? But my face can't really say it, and I can't really say that to them. I gotta like, oh yeah, make them feel like they're hip because they're talking to me.
Right.
But if the roles were reversed and I came to them without them opening that door and talk to them with that lingo, then I would be looked at as ghetto or talking black or talking not the right way. Like, I personally don't like how it can come in one way, but if it comes out the other way, then it can be held against you. And the fact that you have to wait for that door to be open so that you can be yourself with somebody, but in a sense, they're being a fake person trying to feel like they're connecting with you. But then if you came in a room and you're like, yo, what's up, everybody? Everybody chilling today? And then they like, we don't talk like that here. Like, that's fair, who let this black guy in here? Who is this guy? You know what I mean? But if they come in, they'd be like, hey, everybody, what's popping? How are you doing? Like, what's going on? Yeah. What's crack-a-lacking? And then you're just like, you think that's what I sound like, or that's how you got to talk to me to get me to connect with you? Yeah. Okay. Anyways, sorry.
No, yeah, that's true. No, I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's important.
What I said, reversal code switching?
Reversal code switch, and this is something.
I could do this all day.
Yeah, I mean,
I tell you what, it is tiring. Yeah. And also with advancements, or when you're talking about financial equality. Yeah. like for a Black person. And I know in some positions and roles and organizations that I have been a part of, it's almost like if I even said anything about it, I got the response, not in these exact words, but like, oh, you should be appreciative of that, of where you are and what you're getting paid. Even though a counterpart or my experiences are higher, or like I've experienced that before. So in the code switch, it's like, okay, so I can't be, who I am, and I can't show my skill set and my expertise because I need to be appreciative of where I am.
Yeah.
And then it's also like, so I'm not supposed to try to be better than what I am, and I'm not supposed to improve because I should be thankful for what I've been allowed to do, or where I've been allowed to be, or where I've been allowed to accomplish.
Gotcha.
So like that's another part of the code switch. It's like always seem like you're appreciative, always seem like you're humble, always seem like you're thankful for what they have allowed you to do.